Welcome to our 2026 Candidates Forum for the Woodstock candidates. And we're really glad that you could be here on behalf of the WDC. This is one of the bigger, more important events that we put on during the year, so we're really glad to see such enthusiastic participation from all of our fellow Woodstock Democrats, and maybe others. So I just want to say quickly that the Woodstock Democratic Committee has the job of doing as much voter outreach and voter education as we can possibly manage. And we send letters out, we do door knocking, phone calling, events, fundraisers, all sorts of stuff. That's our job. And presenting the candidates to you as best we can. And so we have an event coming up that supports that. That's this Saturday. It's a fun event. It's birding with Peter Schoenberger, and you have to get up early. I'm sorry about that. But if you want to support our work, it's a really fun way to do it, and there's information over there at the table. So, but other than that, thank you so much, and keep, sign up for our email list because we have all sorts of other things going on during the year. So, we have tried to make these forums as factual and unbiased as we possibly could. Our moderator, who you'll meet in a minute, and who many of you remember from our forums last year, is not from Woodstock and has no stake in our elections or in any of the issues we will discuss during this session. She's independent and will moderate the forums as she sees fit. The WDC will have no input during the sessions. We've not shared any of the questions we're asking with the candidates or their campaigns. We have only told them about the format and the rules. We are recording these forums so that many more people other than all of you here today can watch them at their convenience. Please remain quiet so that each candidate's statements will be clearly heard on the videos. That's actually really important because even little chair scratches and whatever, they pick up and block what people are saying. It should be posted on the WDC YouTube channel and the website, we hope and pray, in the next couple of days. And again, thank you for caring enough about our town to take time out of your lives to learn about our candidates. You are why we do this, and you are why democracy still works. And now I'd like to introduce you to our moderator, Christine Dinsmore, who will review the ground rules for the forums. Christine.
I'm moving this over now because I'm wanting to look at everyone. And I apologize to the candidates for my back. I'm gonna read because I kind of feel that this is so important for, I have a habit of like ad-libbing stuff. I'm not going to ad-lib here because this is really important and I want to give the candidates their time. So first of all, I want to welcome you all to the Town of Woodstock Democratic Candidates Forum. I mostly want to thank you, the audience members, who are making sure that you're doing your due diligence and you're learning about the candidates before casting your ballots. I want to thank the candidates for stepping up. I said this last year and I'm going to say it again. Regardless of the outcome of the primary, I salute you for caring about your community and town government. Thank you to the Woodstock Democratic Committee for providing a formal platform for voters to learn about the candidates. I'd now like to go over the format and the ground rules. There will be one forum tonight that will focus on 3 town positions up for election. 1 seat on the town council, the town clerk, and the town justice. Tonight's forum is designed for each candidate to introduce themselves and demonstrate to you, the voter, why they believe they are the best person for the position they seek and why you should vote for them. This is not a debate nor a platform to discredit or disparage their opponents, but rather to focus on their knowledge of the role and responsibilities of the position and their qualifications in executing the job. It's their opportunity to put their best foot forward and focus on what they would bring to the position. I want to reiterate there are only 4 people who have seen these questions. 3 of them are on the forum committee, and that's Rob Safer, Barry Price, and Amy Fraden, and me, your moderator. So the format tonight, each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes to answer specific questions. I may ask a follow-up question after an answer if I believe further details or clarification are needed. Responses to my clarification questions will be 30 seconds. There will be a 2-minute closing statement. We'll spend roughly 35 minutes on each position. Since we started at 6, probably won't get over to 8. I hope you all had an early dinner. We ask that the audience refrain from applauding until the end of the program. Not that this needs to be said, but any interruption of a candidate from the audience or other candidate will result in that candidate having more time added to their response. Despite your enthusiasm, please refrain from jeering or cheering and allow each candidate to have their uninterrupted time. Finally, this forum is being recorded and will be posted on the Woodstock Democratic Committee's website, their YouTube channel, and Facebook page a day or two after the forum. Please share these videos with your friends, family, and neighbors who will be voting in Woodstock. I also want to introduce to you our timer tonight, Erica Tiener, for keeping time. Thank you very much. And now I would like to introduce the candidates. The order of discussion will be for town candidates for town council, town clerk, and town justice. We're going to begin with the town council. So I would like to have to step up here Daniel Gallant and Marcel Nagel. Now, while they're getting up, I'll tell you there are also the other candidates here. For town clerk are Megan Raimondo and Rebecca Brooks, and for town justice, Jason Lesko and Howard Harris. Okay, so we have Daniel Gallant and Marcel Nagel. Hello. Are you ready to make your opening statements? Yes? Okay, we're going to begin from the left and alternate going left and right. So we'll begin with Dan.
Good evening. My name is Daniel, and I'm running for Woodstock Town Council. We are in a race, but not so much a race against or among those of us up here on stage, although there is, of course, that too. We're in a race against time. Economic pressures, demographic shifts, environmental threats, the rising cost of living, of doing business, of maintaining our infrastructure. All of these are changing Woodstock faster than the town has been able to keep up with. For years, needed improvements were deferred, delayed, or ignored. The current administration has been playing catch up, and they've done it well, but there's still a lot more to do. Whomever fills this seat will be asked again and again to see threats before they arrive and to head them off, to protect our water and our land, to help businesses that thrive in summer and struggle in winter, to build affordable housing, and to keep Woodstock sustainable, welcoming, and safe. I've spent my career doing exactly this sort of work, raising tens of millions of dollars for capital projects and running major nonprofit institutions. As deputy supervisor, I completed the town's first ever multi-year financial analysis. I also presented a comprehensive arts plan for the town and began the process of modernizing our aging payroll system. I've also written 2 grant proposals recently for the town, including a $65,000 county request to put a new cardiac defibrillator and monitor on our fire district's rescue vehicle because the number of EMS calls continues to rise.
That's the time, sir. I'm sorry.
Understood.
Okay, next, you're up. Mr. Nagel.
So I'm back here again thinking I would never run for politics the last time. I'm back again. I'm a local person, grew up in West Hurley, came to Woodstock to work as a young boy when I was 12 years old. I feel I'm the boots on the ground candidate. Worked in the trades my whole life, and I think my qualifications are unique to a town board in the sense that I understand the infrastructure that the town has and the buildings and the grounds and the needs for maintenance and everything. But I've also been greatly involved in the 10 Church Road situation, as many of you may know. And I'd like to consider that as an example of my diligence in getting a good result for our community. I spent over 3 years working on 10 Church Road. I'm paying attention to other things, but that situation up there has been so time-consuming, it's just unimaginable. The town of Woodstock waged a legal defense against Pam and Frank Amy. It got settled, and Anula, our supervisor, was kind enough to give me credit in one of the recent town board meetings that I was one of the people, of many people, that kept that situation alive. And what has happened now is the town board just passed a very extensive resolution to reopen the door to 10 Church Road. Going forward, I'm involved in the water. I'm managing on the management team of the DWSP2, and I've been providing information to the Woodstock Environmental Commission. And they deserve a lot of credit because they really got the ball rolling on reopening the situation at 10 Church Road.
Okay, we're going to have the first question, and it's going to go to you, Mr. Nagel. Left, right, left, right. What inspired you to seek this office, and is there any specific event that motivated you to enter the race?
So being a lifelong resident of the area and a resident of Woodstock since I was about 20 years old, and running a business of various kinds my entire life, as well as working in the nonprofit world at Birdcliff, the Woodstock Birdcliff Guild, I feel very fortunate that this community has been very good to me. I've worked hard, I've received a lot of respect. When I'm in trouble, I know who to call, the people aren't far away, and I think it's my turn to give something back. I never really had a passion for my excavation business. I experienced some health problems in 2023 and had to downscale that business, and that coincided with the 10 Church Road situation. And I've got a passion for that kind of work that really exercises my brain a lot more than cracking rocks and pushing dirt. I enjoy giving back, and I feel like I'm really just catching my second wind in my life. And I really want to give something back to the community and leave a legacy and be known for some real positive things.
Thank you. Mr. Gallant?
So I never originally saw myself as getting into politics. I had the opportunity to work with Anula, our fantastic new and current supervisor, on her campaign, on her transition team, and then during her first few months in office to assist as deputy supervisor. And in those roles, I saw and was very surprised by how much deferred work, infrastructure improvements, capital projects the town needed and faces, because even though there has been a sizable surplus, that surplus has come at the expense of vitally needed and in fact approved improvements and overhauls to highways, to water and sewer, to all sorts of infrastructure elements. I ran the first ever multi-year financial analysis that this town has ever had, which was surprising in and of itself that there hadn't been a prior effort by a supervisor or the council to compare budgets and actual expenses and revenues. And I knew from doing that work that some of the experience and skills I had accrued over the years as a project manager, as a consultant, and as a nonprofit director managing tens of millions of dollars in budgets could come into play in helping to facilitate some of that work. And in general, I just feel that Woodstock is at an incredibly pivotal moment because the cost of living here is unsustainable for the artists, the families, the small businesses, the business owners who have called this town home for generations. And so I'm running because I think the board needs an additional member who can see and integrate the finances, the infrastructure, housing concerns, environmental sustainability, and support for artists, arts organizations, and small businesses.
Thank you. So Mr. Gallant is going to be back to you. Okay. In a general sense, what do you see as key issues for the town, and briefly, and I underscore briefly because of the time constraint, how you would address them as a town council member. What would you prioritize?
Affordability is paramount to me among the issues faced by Woodstock at this moment. A vast majority of those born here, raised here, and people who want to be able to work and live comfortably in this town are simply being priced out, in many cases at the expense of vacation rentals, short-term rentals, and tourism. At the same time, small businesses, arts organizations, and our tax base, we need tourism, we need visitors, and we need to be able to remain a viable location for those who want to visit as well as those who want to live here. So sustainability of business interests, small businesses, small arts organizations, affordability for long-term year-round residents. And one of the topics that I really do think that Marcel has also done a fantastic job on is environmental sustainability. Sometimes these topics come together, as with the Xena Highwoods development, which I believe is a complete travesty on multiple fronts, and in many ways both an insult and a detriment to those of us in Woodstock. It has tremendous environmental, it threatens the watershed, it threatens multiple endangered species, it threatens a forested area that should remain undeveloped, and it puts enormous stress on Woodstock's EMS services, which already are often stretched to the limit. So I believe that pushing back against that development and other luxury developments that our town simply doesn't need, while at the same time finding a way to plan for, budget for, and sustainably create affordable housing is hugely important.
Thank you.
Mr. Daigle.
So definitely affordability is top of the wish list, if you want to call it a wish list. How do we achieve that? I think that involves a lot of accountability. How we spend our tax revenues so that we're not burdening the struggling people with added taxes that they pay through owning their property if they're fortunate enough to own it, or through the rentals that they have. The environment certainly is a second priority, because let's face it, if it's in the water, the contaminants, what are we going to do if our environment falls apart or is damaged beyond repair? The environment is a big deal. I'm passionate about that, but affordability is the other thing. I feel we have a responsibility to do something for affordable housing, and I believe affordable housing is actually the hardest hurdle for this community to overcome, due to the costs of building it and maintaining it and making it sustainable. You know, when a 2x4 costs $8, think about the cost to build an affordable unit. And the location in Woodstock for that is really difficult. I realize people are working on a location for it, but I've got some reservations about some of the sites that are picked for obvious reasons, because if we're taking up parking spaces and the business community doesn't have parking for the customers to come, how are they going to be able to sustain their businesses? It's a very complicated issue. It's going to take a lot of work, but affordability and affordable housing are definitely the two most difficult issues to solve in our community.
Thank you. We're back up. Okay, here we go. What specific skills, experiences, qualities make you qualified to be on the town council? And how would you apply your skills to solve the problem the town faces that you just discussed?
So the skills that I bring that I feel are mostly unique for a town board member are the fact that I've worked in the trades my entire life. I understand property management, and the town of Woodstock, we've got vast real estate that has to be maintained and managed. Through my excavation business, I'm very familiar with a lot of infrastructure that the town maintains and what it involves to repair it and replace it. I'm aware of situations in our buildings that need to be remedied, like at the highway department. You know, there's just things that have been on the docket to be repaired and remedied there for a long time, and it's amazing to me that an 18 or 19-year-old building probably needs $400,000 worth of work, and we're running behind on all of this stuff. It's a difficult thing to get our hands around, and I see multiple key components that really need a lot of attention, and it's going to take a lot of money to get it straightened out. But all of those things are where my skills fall into place, and I think that's really unique as a town board member. I can fill a void that I feel is really necessary when it gets down to the infrastructure and management of our properties and the maintenance of it.
Thank you. Mr. Gallant?
Yes, thank you. One of the hugest areas that I think Woodstock would benefit from, and I do commend Anula and the current council on making some strides in this area after years in which it was neglected, is partnerships with state and county officials and funding entities. There is so much grant money available at the state level. It's not easy to get, but it is there. Our state assembly, our state senate, our elected officials have access to funds that Woodstock would benefit from and have shown willingness to partner with Woodstock on pursuing those funds. It requires dedication and experience. Now, I have 20 years experience raising raising public funds for capital projects, overseeing those projects, and working with a combination of public and private funders to bring about large-scale capital projects, as well as the programs and operations that then use those renovated or newly constructed facilities. Woodstock is long overdue for improvements to significant parts of its infrastructure. Some of that work is moving forward. I also have years of work creating and working in public-private partnerships to plan for future renovations and investments in programming. And I have a lot of experience working with arts institutions and with individual artists, many of whom make Woodstock the fantastic community that it is, but many of whom have been struggling for years. We are a town that is known for our art scene. Our coat of arms right up on the wall demonstrates how key arts practices are to our identity. We need, as a town, to do a better job of embracing, supporting, championing, centering, and raising money to support our artists and to give them a voice, and I have experience doing all of that. Thank you.
I'd like to do a little follow-up with both of you. Both of you have spoken. You gave a little more into how you would fund things, but both of you have talked about how expensive things are, and also some, I don't want to call it neglect, but there are certain things that have not been kept up. So how do you manage the issue of not burdening the taxpayer and investing in the structure, infrastructure that's been neglected? Maybe Mr. Nagel, could you go first?
Well, some of this is, sometimes it just has to be painful, but we'll go back to the last election where we were talking about grants writers to raise funds to take care of and fulfill the financial needs of the community. And maybe there's some funding available for a lot of these infrastructure upgrades, and we need to chase that. The upgrades that are necessary are substantial, and we don't want to push that onto the taxpayer directly, but we do have a need to really pick a lot of our systems and infrastructure up out of the ground and get it back online.
So as someone who has been a grant writer for years and has raised tens of millions of dollars in that regard, I can certainly tell you that there are a wide number of grants at the county and state and private level that we would be eligible for, many of which are relevant to our sustainability efforts, to our efforts to improve our roads, our water, our sewers, to our efforts to better support our small businesses and our arts organizations. And part of that work is writing the grant, and part of it is advocating to our elected officials. Thank you.
Back to you, Mr. Gallant. Next question, what are the roles and responsibilities of the town council member? And I'm going to ask you specifically, what distinguishes the supervisor's role from the council member, and what can the council do that the supervisor cannot?
Absolutely. A supervisor, and I think Anula is doing a fantastic job of this, despite the fact that it is tremendously intense, is responsible for day-to-day as well as long-term strategic oversight of town staff, town resources, management of the budget, and pushing forward larger initiatives while also being cognizant of the progress of the smaller day-to-day projects that the council has approved. Council members, and my experience working on nonprofit boards for the past 20 years comes into play in this area. Council members are responsible for oversight, for assuring that the approved budget is in fact complied with, for being on the ground in community organizations and community events to gauge the temperature of and understand the concerns and the needs of community members. Yes, the supervisor does that as well, and yes, our supervisor is doing a great job of being immersed in the community, but when someone is so involved with the day-to-day administrative business of running a town, it also means that that person's perspective is going to be much more focused on town work, and council members have the ability to be both ambassadors for the supervisor's work, but also to be a counterbalance at times. I have a lot of experience as a nonprofit board member, being both a dissenting voice and a supportive voice, and I think that cognitive dissonance is absolutely vital to the role, being willing to be generally supportive, but also to call out those areas where either a council person or the townspeople they represent may differ with the town administration on some topics. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nagel?
So Dan basically hit the ball out of the park on that one. In short, the town supervisor is responsible for the day-to-day operations, and the council members are just simply not responsible for the day-to-day operations. As a council member, I believe that there are times where you're going to absolutely align with the supervisor on any position, and you're going to be supportive. There's going to be other times, I believe, where a council member's position is going to not be in alignment with the supervisor, and I think it's a responsibility of every individual council member to speak up, even when they're going to go against the grain of the supervisor. I've been involved in the last 3 years, and not as a council member, but as a member of the community, and I have challenged the authorities in this town consistently, factually, and I've proven my case every single time. And that ultimately is the responsibility of a council member, to do your homework, know what you're talking about, listen to your constituents, and stand up and be heard for the betterment of the community. I think it's really that simple, and it's a difficult task to fulfill, but that is what it's about. I listen to the community, and I will bring what the community wants to the table, and I will stand up and be heard when it needs to be a situation that needs to be heard.
Okay, thank you. This is the last question before your final statement. So the last question we have here is, much of the council, current council, is composed of newly elected officials. How do you get along with the new team? And what relational skills can you bring to ensure the council runs smoothly? Mr. Nagel.
So the existing town board council, it does have some new members. But we do have some holdovers. Anula was a town board member, she's now the supervisor. Laura Rickey was a town board member, she's still on the town board. And Reggie Earls is a returning town board member. How do I get along with them? I would like to say that I will work diligently to get along with everybody, but I offer a lot of context when I communicate, and I know it's problematic for some people. And I do that for a variety of reasons, because sometimes I get asked a question by a council member. I need to provide the context so that they understand the answer to the solution. Sometimes I've been greeted by a response that was unfavorable to me because my context is so thorough, because I want anybody I'm communicating with to not be able to say, well, I didn't understand that. And that's what I plan to do, communicate thoroughly, add a lot of context so other council members could make informed decisions and be heard. And one of the biggest complaints that I've had over the last number of years is we have town board meetings where we're in and out the door in 20 minutes. I want more of the discussion about the town's affairs to take place at the table. And if I receive a consultant's report that says the water's contaminated, I'm bringing it to the town board table. Transparency, 100%. Accountability, 100%. And I'm going to do it in a fair and calm manner.
Thank you. Mr. Gallant.
Thank you. And I want to commend Marcel. I think that the ways that he has brought the 10 Church Road and related topics to the public eye has really been useful and beneficial, and it has had an impact, no question, on how the board has moved forward. So I get along very well with Anula, with Lily, Laura, Lori, and Reggie. I also think from 20 years of serving on nonprofit boards and continuing to serve on several, that it is both possible and vital to be, when possible, to have an amicable harmony among committee members while also being willing to disagree, and to have those disagreements be civil, be based in the facts, and not be based in emotion, but rather tied into actual constituent needs, available data, and the well-being of the town. And as we have seen in the past, and we see with current issues, there will be any number of times when citizens and groups of citizens will, despite having compatible goals for the town, have very different opinions about execution and strategy. And it really is the responsibility of every council member to be willing not only to hew to the argument they came into a meeting with, but to consider alternate possibilities, to consider counter arguments, and to be willing to weigh a path forward that may differ with their instincts. Evidence and awareness of the well-being of the town are paramount for any governing entity. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we've come to the conclusion where you will give your 2-minute concluding statements. And since Mr. Gallant began, we're going to begin with you, Mr. Nagel, for your 2-minute final wrap-up.
Oh, the closing statement. I'm going to go back to my opening statement and just say that this community has treated me very well throughout my life. And I don't really have any enemies in this community, and I've worked really hard, and I've found this new passion to serve the community. I promise everybody I will do it in a calm, respectful manner. When I'm going to challenge authority, I'm going to do it factually. I'm going to be open. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to bring the documents to the table. I think, when we look back at the last number of years, one of the problems that was missing was certainly transparency. I know that firsthand from on the outside. There were instances where I would request information because I'm the mad foiler. But let me tell you, using that law to gain information is a really important thing to utilize. And there were instances in the past where it wasn't transparent, and there were violations of the law. And if somebody's in trouble in this community, say another shady dump, and they're not getting the information from the government that they need, I will be an advocate for them again, just as I was for the Amy's. If an employee is being harassed in the workplace and they need somebody to stand up with them and guide them through the process, I will do that. And I have a zero tolerance for poor behavior in the workplace. And I will always be open to any member of this community and any employee that works for our government and anybody that's visiting the town. I will be here to serve this community through and through, and it will be my mission to get a good result for the community.
Thank you. Mr. Gallant.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Christine, for doing such a fantastic job as moderator, and thank you to the Woodstock Democratic Committee for hosting. You've heard us talk tonight about governance, about affordability, about infrastructure. What ties all of the issues together that we've been discussing so far are the same set of questions. Will a decision that the town government makes actually protect our air and our water? Will it make the lives of Woodstock residents easier? Will it put more money in your pocket, or at least make it more sustainable for you to cover your expenses? These sort of practical tests are what I will apply to any vote that comes before the council if I'm elected. And I'm not coming to this work from a theoretical place. I've raised tens of millions of dollars for communities and overseen budgets in the tens of millions. I know how to write the grant, to manage the project, to account for the money, and to ensure good governance. A council member's job is stewardship, oversight, guidance, and showing up ready to work. And after 20 years on nonprofit boards and a career in this sort of work, I'm ready to do that from day one in this role while staying immersed in our community. There's a proverb that I often think about, and that's one of the reasons that I went into the nonprofit sector. A society grows great when people plant trees whose shade they know that they will never sit in. And that's why I do this work in nonprofits, and that's why I aim to be and hope to have your vote as a council member. The financial analysis, infrastructure, housing, the grants, most of this is, in a metaphorical sense, the process of planting trees for the Woodstock that comes after us. We owe that to the people who built this town and the ones who will inherit it from us. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes this section, and I would like us to give a round of applause to the folks who have really put themselves. Next coming up is for the town clerk. We have Megan Raimondo and Rebecca Brooks. And someone is really good changing the name, so I don't call you Mr. Mr. Gallant and Mr. Legal. Perfect. So you have a bit of a disadvantage in the first group, because the first heard me go on and on and on. You kind of had a chance to take a breath while that. I'm throwing you right in right now, okay? So here we go. We're gonna have you begin, again, going from left to right, and you'll have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and the opening statement will first come from Ms. Brooks.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming out today and making the time to make an informed decision this primary. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I moved here to Woodstock a little over 3 years ago, but I've been coming here for the last 10 years with my husband, whose family has been in the area for 25 years. My father-in-law is a local artist. I got married in the Xena cornfield, and I went to the Woodstock clerk's office to have my marriage certificate signed. In the pandemic, my husband and I decided to set roots here, and we now have a son who is in nursery school. Shortly after settling down here in an effort to get involved and find a community, I joined the housing committee. And my work there has really focused on making sure the work that we do and our information is clear and accessible through organizing community events, delivering presentations, sending e-newsletters, posting on social media, and curating digital resources. I have a master's in business, and currently I work on technology modernization projects for federal government clients who run resource websites. So I work closely with web development teams, I usher people through transitions, and I train them on new technical systems. Before that, I worked in technology, making education accessible online through a variety of digital media formats. But I got my start in the arts, where I ran a music nonprofit, and I took over 10 years of spreadsheets and made a database myself to track donations and ticket sales. And I led a revamp of their website, which included adding online sales. Working on a town committee has exposed me to some of the inner workings of our local government, and I see that I have a set of skills from my professional experience that could help our town run better. So tonight, I hope to show you how the clerk really is a pivotal player in how this town operates. And I want to convey the importance of the clerk's office in our government and share with you my many plans for expanding this office to better serve its residents.
Thank you. Ms. Raimondo.
Good evening, everyone. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the Woodstock Democratic Committee for hosting tonight's forum, to Christine for moderating, and to my fellow candidates, and all of the community members who have taken the time here to be here with us this evening. Participating in events like this one are one of the many ways we strengthen our democracy, and I appreciate everyone who is here to listen, learn, and make informed choices about the future of our town. My name is Megan. I lived in Woodstock for 19 years, along with my husband, Mike, and my 2 children, Mira and Max. Since September 8th of last year, I have had the privilege of serving as your first deputy clerk, and following the retirement of our former town clerk, Jackie Early, on October 31st, I have been assigned all the responsibilities of the town clerk. Over that time, I have gained invaluable hands-on experience serving the residents of Woodstock and managing the daily operations of the office. Every day, I help residents navigate government services, access records, respond to FOIA requests, support town board meetings, and work through both routine and important moments in Woodstockers' lives. Those experiences have reinforced what I have always believed. Local government works best when it's accessible, responsive, transparent, and centered on the people it serves. Since stepping into this role, I have focused on listening to residents, identifying opportunities for improvement, and strengthening the systems that support our community. Whether it is improving communication, exploring more convenient ways for residents to access services, fostering stronger collaboration between departments, or simply making sure someone feels heard when they walk through the door, my goal has remained the same: to make local government work for the people of Woodstock. I believe that when departments work together with mutual respect and shared commitment to services, it creates a more positive workplace culture and ultimately leads to better outcomes for our residents. I love this community, and I love clerk work, and I would be honored to continue serving as your town clerk.
Thank you. Ms. Raimondo, you're up for the first question, okay? Okay, the question: what inspired you to seek this office, and is there anything specific that particularly motivated you to run?
Okay, serving my community in a meaningful way is what motivated me to take this office originally as an appointed clerk. I think that over the years, I've built a lot of skills running 2 businesses, helping many local people in their own businesses, and I'm a people person, and I'm a helper, and I'm a doer, and I always leave things better than the way I found it. And my children both graduated last year, and I reached out and I said, what can I do to be of service? And Jackie took me under her wing and knew that I could take care of this town the way she took care of this town. So I'm honored to do it, and that's why I decided to run for this office.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks.
So, like many of you, I am frustrated with what's going on in the nation and the world, and I want to do something that's going to have a real impact. And for me, that's working here locally with my neighbors in my community, because I think local government is really where we can see policies have real impact. So I'm running here for many reasons. I'm also running because I have worked with people, and those people have worked in the government and the town, and they have approached me and they've asked me to step up to run. I want to help others understand what our town government does, because the more we understand how our town works, the more engaged we can be, and we can have a voice then in what our town does next. My family decided to settle down here, and we have a young son, and I want to make sure that this town is livable and vibrant in the next 20 years for him and us and the rest of our community. I am running because I'm a natural connector. I love to connect people and share resources. I'm a good communicator, and I think that good communication is what our town needs the most right now. I'm also running because I have a background that will help us. I have a background in change management, and I have experience ushering people through periods of transition, providing them with the knowledge and skills to adapt to the changes that are coming. And Woodstock has a lot of changes coming our way, whether we like it or not. We have an aging population, a closing elementary school, a changing climate, a struggling economy, and an unsupportive federal government. So we really need to be prepared for the challenges and the opportunities that are coming our way. And if the clerk's office operates a tight ship, then I think that they can really help the town do just that.
Thank you. So, let's see, you are up again, Ms. Brooks. What are the short-term priorities that you want to address as clerk? And what key problems do you want to solve? So we're looking at short-term.
Well, I do have three main areas that I would focus on if I were elected, and those are to connect, communicate, and modernize. So I really want to proactively connect residents with programs and resources that will help make Woodstock more affordable and more livable. I want to connect in the next year our youth to better and more affordable summer youth programming, because that summer rec program, which is administered by the clerk's office for the last few years, has been struggling and under budgeted. And I have experience in youth programming that I'd like to bring to that to help revive that program and make sure that it serves the community and our families. I also want to connect our office with grant funding. There are New York State grants that will definitely help with digitization projects, and the next one is going to be due next April, so I'd like to start looking at that. But I also want the clerk to look for other sources of revenue for the town. I also want to help with our communication. I want to communicate town updates through multiple channels. I want to see us having an official town newsletter. I want us to be having more in-person community events and town halls. I would like to see us communicating with other forms of media, using video more, broadcasting our town and community meetings on public access and YouTube Live like Shandaken does. And lastly, I want to modernize, and this can also be in the short term because it's 2026 and we currently do not take any credit cards for any transactions in our office, and we've fallen behind other towns in allowing for online payments of taxes and fees. And Shandaken's town clerk, Joyce Grant, who's been there for 14 years, has been trying to get Woodstock to join along and do this transition, but without success. And so I want to pick up from there and move us forward on that. We also need a modern, functioning, and searchable website, and we have a couple of years to make that accessible according to federal standards, and I want to get right on that. And all of these things, I think, really push the boundaries a bit of what a clerk typically does. But I see a wave of clerks in other towns who are really pushing the bounds, and I want Woodstock to catch up and lead the way.
Thank you.
Okay, short-term priorities. I will agree, online payments, it's a huge thing. We are behind the times, but I have exciting news to report. We've met with two systems, Municipay and Gov Portal, and talked through how they can support across department payment acceptance. So we found ones that work for one, but not for all. So we just want to make sure we're making the right investment that's going to cover all the bases that we needed to and not make additional work for our department heads. And the other thing to note is that we got great news the other day that the system we currently use, called Systems East, which is through Ulster County, that's our property tax payments, they have a system that can accept online portal payments. So we have a meeting set up with them, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, to onboard it for next tax season. So that's a huge win. For summer recreation, that of course is a top priority because it's coming, and we've been working on it since February and before that, but really laying out some good information and infrastructure around it. We've started with surveys for families, returning families and new families, along with our staff, to get more input from them and see what's working or what we can improve, because there was a town board meeting earlier in the year where we heard people and we heard that we can do better, and we will. We're fortunate that we're partnering with Family of Woodstock and New York State Education Department to fund free lunch for our campers this year, which is an amazing offering to them and families, and we've heard a lot of positive feedback about that. I think it's important to also talk about accessibility. The website is new. We have one person who is the webmaster. She's very responsive. We've tried to update our clerk's page so that you have all the forms, and there's a fillable PDF format for that as well. So we're working on it every single day, and I'm really proud of that.
Thank you. You're up, Ms. Brooks. Oh no, I'm sorry, you're up, Ms. And I even wrote it down and I still screwed it up. Okay, this question, what are the long-term problems or issues you want to address? So last was short-term, now we're looking at long-term.
So one of the biggest things that I stepped into was records management. So we have a town that's been around for a very long time, and we have a lot of records. But they're everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but they're in a lot of our town buildings in different areas. They're not really tracked. So one of my first discussions was with New York State Archives. And we have a gentleman that helps support us. His name is Michael Martin. And what they highly recommend at the state level is creating a task force where we partner with Michael, our town historians, Richard and Janine, and they have already been welcomed and they want to be a part of this, and our department heads, where we can create a task force. We've already sent out an inventory to understand what records live where, what they need to read them. Maybe they need a VHS player, maybe they need something to play like reels, we don't know. So that's a huge long-term goal and process, but the board has to be involved in that as well. So the task force's goal, I've asked the supervisor if we can create this, so that's my hope, is to bring everyone to the table, get a sense of what we need, and offer the board solutions so that we can move forward in the clerk's office, probably partnering to get grant money to do that as well, and decide what scope they want. Are we gonna modernize it all? Are we gonna just do marriage, birth, death? Like, there's choices that can be made, but the town board ultimately makes them, but it's my hope to bring that to them, that information, so they can make a decision so we can move forward, so we have documents and all of our records for a long time to come.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks.
So I see a lot of the things that are in the short term will continue in the long term. I think that one of the challenges and opportunities is to really get the office kind of back up to speed, and I'd like us to focus on that in the short term, and then build upon that. So one thing that I've been seeing in other clerks' offices in the area, and I've reached out to and had detailed conversations with 4 other clerks in the area to learn what their priorities are and what they're doing. And I've mentioned Shandaken's clerk, Joyce Grant, who is really leading the way. She's been the clerk there for 14 years, and she has everything running a tight ship. And one of my favorite things that she told me was that after tax season, she gets bored and she just starts doing things. So she's really gone beyond what clerks have done to connect her community with resources. She's really prioritized seniors. She facilitated computer classes at the Phoenicia Library for seniors. She started a relief fund for people who have experienced catastrophic events. She uses public access for recording town events and is very involved in that. And that's another thing that I've been involved in and that I'd like to help revive is our public access station, which has equipment that is 15 years old and failing, and it's really an outlet that we can utilize. I'd like to get some attention and some funding for the public access station to use it for public education and government purposes. I think that can really be a great outlet to communicate to our town. It's going to take a while and a lot of support to get that going, but I'd love to see that happening as an outlet to communicate with our town better.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks, you're still up because we're alternating. This is our last question before your final statements. So here we go. What skills and relevant experience do you bring to the position, and how would you apply them, particularly to the issues that you've identified need to be updated?
So I bring over 15 years of experience working across several industries, federal government, mission-driven businesses, and arts nonprofits. And I've been responsible for a lot of things that a clerk would do, tracking and reporting our revenue, sales. I'm customer facing, I produce reports and I analyze data, including financial data, and I have experience automating systems and training people on those new systems, and I'd like to bring that to our office and again help us to modernize the way we do things and be a little bit more efficient. Recently I've been branching out in some other community initiatives that I think also relate to what a clerk could do. I created the website for Earth Week 2026, earthweekwoodstock.org. I designed promotional materials, and I collaborated with the co-organizers to produce the main expo event at the community center in April. I'm demonstrating that I can connect the community with enriching events and resources that way. I also work closely with the town to help produce our March community meeting on the DOT infrastructure project, assisting with the live production of that event at the venue, as well as broadcasting it for public access and on YouTube. I also have committee experience, which is very instrumental in preparing me for this role, but I've also been going to other committee meetings to learn about how the clerk might be helpful in connecting them and helping them communicate with each other and breaking down silos, as well as helping them communicate with the public by enabling them to follow the open meetings law. You know, I'm not in the clerk's office right now, so I have had to do research in other ways to learn about what a clerk does, and I've mentioned that I've spoken at length with other clerks, and I've been endorsed by 2 clerks as well, Joyce Grant and Shandaken, and Kim Daly and Olive, who actually just upset an incumbent on the platform of modernizing the office and doing more from the clerk's office, and I really want to follow their lead and help lead our town in a positive direction.
Thank you. Ms. Raimondo.
So, as you know, I'm already in the office, so I have since September's worth of experience, and that's important. So that's day-to-day operations of the office, and I want to promise you all we're never bored. Michelle and I are never bored. There's plenty of work to do. I have experience with records management prior to this, and and working in public meetings, and former board experience as well, having 3 years on a board. I have a strong background in customer service and business management because I've run 2 of my own businesses, and I help and support other businesses, both local and around Ulster County and not just in Woodstock. And I think that's important to know that each clerk's office is unique into itself, and there's a lot that we can do, and it's also very important to know what our lanes are so that we're being appropriate in our day-to-day actions. And I think that we can continue to grow this work in clerk's work, but it's important to know that we have the best interest of the public in mind each and every day, so we need to make sure that we're using our skills and our time to do town clerk work and support other departments in doing theirs when and where we can, and also have the support of our town board because we work better when we work together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now it's time for your closing statements, and we're going to begin with you, Ms. Raimondo.
Thank you for being here tonight, for the thoughtful questions, and for your commitment to our town. Throughout this campaign, you've heard about qualifications, priorities, and visions for the future. As you make your decision, I hope you'll consider not only what candidates say they will do, but what they have already demonstrated through their actions. For me, this campaign has never been about politics. It's always been about service. Every day, I come to work with a simple goal: to leave the town clerk's office a little better than I found it, and to make sure every resident feels seen, heard, and respected when they interact with their local government. I believe experience matters. I believe relationships matter. I believe listening matters. And I believe that the best public servants never stop looking for ways to improve. The town's clerk's office is often the front door to local government. It should be welcoming, efficient, transparent, and responsive. This is the standard I have worked to uphold, and it is the standard I will continue to pursue if elected. I am proud of the work Michelle, your second deputy clerk, and I, along with other departments, have accomplished together. But I am even more excited about what is possible when we continue building on that foundation. At its heart, this election is about trust. Trust that when you call, someone will answer. Trust that when you have a question, someone will help. Trust that your local government is working for you. Serving this community has been one of the greatest honors of my life, and I would be grateful for the opportunity to continue that work as your town clerk. I humbly ask for your vote on June 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks.
Thank you. So tonight I've been proposing expanding what the clerk's office has traditionally done in the past by connecting us more proactively, communicating better, and modernizing the way we do things in our town. I couldn't list all of my ideas tonight, but I encourage you to go to my website, brooksforclerk.com, and read through a dozen or so very specific and actionable ideas that I plan on implementing for this town. But in closing, I want to stress how important this clerk's race is. Our previous clerk served for 22 years and ran unopposed every time. This year, you get a choice. You know, if you paid close attention to the supervisor's race last year, I think you should be paying as much attention to the clerk's race this year, and here's why. The clerk, like the supervisor and the highway superintendent, are full-time salaried positions. They each make the same amount of money at around $78,000 a year. Compare that to town justices who earn $28,000 a year and town board members who earn $13,000 a year. So they're earning stipends for their time. But the town clerk is full-time and dedicated to the town. This is their day job. They are working with the supervisor and the highway superintendent to make decisions for this town, share resources, and work together to prioritize what the town needs to help it move forward so we can thrive. So I think that we should be asking more out of our clerk's office. Let's have them pursue grants and help find other sources of revenue. Let's have them coordinating programs, push community initiatives forward, and maybe do some of the operational legwork that a lot of our volunteer committees may not have the bandwidth to do. So I want to impress upon you the importance of the clerk here, because this could be the most important decision that you make for the town this year, because it will have lasting effects, maybe even the next 20 years. Woodstockers voted for change last year, and you can continue that momentum by voting for me, because I will work to maximize what this office can do for the town of Woodstock and move us forward. Thank you.
At this point, I want to thank the two of you, and this concludes the part of the clerks. So if we could take the time to Rebecca Brooks and Megan Armando. So next up we have the town justice candidates. I want to mention at this point that the judicial candidates, I will be really stressing things to talk about in general, because there's the judicial candidate, they have a special place where they can't talk about previous decisions or decisions they'll make. So all of these are going to be general questions, not getting into like nitty-gritty, to be respectful of New York state law. Okay, with that said, I'm going to begin with, we have Howard Harris, Mr. Harris, and Jason Lesko, who are running, and we're going to begin the opening statements with you, Mr. Harris.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I retired after 20 years as an NYPD detective and was often lead investigator. I investigated most type complaints. I'll start over.
Sure. Can we give him the time again? Thanks.
I retired after 20 years in the NYPD as a detective and was often a lead investigator. I investigated most every type of complaint, from kidnapping of pigeons to homicide. The investigations were similar to those you see on TV crime shows, interviewing witnesses, observing crime scenes, renewing evidence, etc., which usually took more than the 1 hour time it took them on TV to solve the crime. As a uniform officer, I responded to hundreds of disputes, from parking spots to family disputes. Handling them was somewhat like a referee in a wrestling match, but you had to control the situation with your voice and presence. The common denominator in all these instances were knowing the law, listening rather than hearing, having patience, empathy, and decision-making based on facts. About 10 years after moving to Woodstock, I applied for and was appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals, where I served for 15 years both as a member and chair, and heard over 500 applications. The ZBA is a quasi-judicial body similar to a court, where people come to seek relief from the zoning laws. I brought to the board the same qualities I relied on in the NYPD, including decision maker. The town cell tower highway garage, the Tibetan Monastery, the Youth Set Park, and the Kachina Barn were all cases that came before us. I don't
Thank
need
you.
any more.
Excuse me?
I don't need any more.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Mr. Lesko.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Lesko, and I am running for re-election as the Woodstock Town Court Justice. I was appointed in 2017 by our town board. I was elected in 2018 and successfully re-elected in 2022. The experience that I bring to this office constitutes 31 years practicing law. The majority of my legal practice has been dedicated to public service. I successfully ran a solo practice here in this area for 23 years, not only representing numerous clients in different courts. I appeared in about every town justice court in this county, representing criminal defendants, representing clients in civil matters, representing clients who have had vehicle and traffic issues. I've also been a member of the panel to represent children in the Ulster County Family Court. I have represented children who are the victims of neglect and abuse. I have represented children who are unfortunately in the middle of horrible custody battles between two warring parents. I have represented parents on the 18B panel who cannot afford counsel and thus qualify for an assigned attorney. I'm a graduate of Hamilton College. I'm a graduate of Brooklyn Law School. And I humbly and respectfully ask for your support to re-elect me on the 23rd of June. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Lesko, the first question goes to you. Why are you seeking this office, and what inspired you?
I'm seeking this office because I have a passion for public service. I feel that the qualities that I bring to the table, the experience that I've had as an attorney, and also my experience as a judge since 2017, I want to continue the work that I'm doing here. I was raised by parents with the values of trying to make the community you're in a better place than you found it. I have worked to do that. I have immersed myself in this community, not only as an attorney, but as a citizen. I have volunteered at Volunteers Day, cleaning up garbage and serving food. I have cleaned up roadsides on Earth Day, along with other people. I've been involved in our local American Legion to help veterans. We also had a cleanup crew and a member of the Sons of the American Legion with a stretch on Route 212 to clean up garbage on the roadside. I have been involved in the Big Brother, Big Sister program in this area. So I'm not just an attorney, I'm a member of this community who contributes to this community. I want to continue to do that as the Woodstock Town Court judge. I bring a unique perspective, not only as a judge, sitting since 2017, but representing people who have had the impact of a court decision upon them. I've represented human beings who are sentenced to jail. I have represented abused people in relationships and seen the impact that an order of protection can have on their lives. So I bring that perspective. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harris.
I've been living in this town for about 40 years. I was on the ZBA, as I mentioned, for 15 years. And I just get that satisfying feeling of doing things for the town. I don't have the legal background that Mr. Lesko has, but my experience comes from serving this community directly, listening to residents and working with people from every walk of life. The town courts were designed so fair-minded community members, not just lawyers, would serve. I am running to bring that grounded, people-centered perspective back to the bench. My time with the ZBA, maybe 500 to 600 people came before us, and they had to produce evidence, and that's about it. I mean, could go on talking, but I'm all right.
So you feel
Yeah,
you've completed
yeah,
your...
yeah, that's sufficient.
Okay. Mr. Harris, that you're up for the second
Good.
question?
That one's easy.
I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah,
you're up
that's
for the
easy.
second question.
Go ahead.
Here we go. What specific background or relevant experience would you bring to the position? And are there any special certifications or credentials we should know about?
Well, 20 years in the New York City Police Department, going to thousands or hundreds of testimonies to various crimes, of people that are arrested. The judicial, the ZBA is a quasi-judicial board where certain processes have to be made. Witnesses come in, testimony is made. All right. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Lesko.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What specific background or relevant experience would you bring to the position? Are there any special certifications or credentials we should know about?
So, I'm sorry if I'm being redundant, but I really feel that my judicial experience, along with my experience as an attorney, is important here. People have to understand that the immense responsibility you have as a town court judge. I have the power to sentence someone to jail for 364 days. I've seen the impact that can have on a human being because I've represented those human beings. That gives me special insight of how my decisions might affect one of our citizens. I am continually taking legal education classes, continuing legal education requirements, as well as judicial legal education requirements. The law changes frequently. In just the last 4 or 5 years, we've had raise the age legislation, which impacts youth in our community. We've had bail reform, which has been massive. We've had the Tenant Protection Act in 2019, which made vast changes to landlord-tenant law for summary proceedings. I think rolling with those changes, learning how they affect the law and the people that come before me, gives me experience that is particularly on point to handle the many things that you will face as a town court judge. As far as my experience presently, I have just recently had the honor to be employed. I closed down my 23-year solo practice, and am now was asked to become part of the team of the Honorable Sarah Rakoff in Family Court. I am now her principal court attorney since January of this year. Thank you.
What was the question?
The question was, what specific background or relevant experience would you bring to the position? Oh, you had that already, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Oh, so we're on to a new question? Yes. Yes. Ah, perfect, okay. Wake up, Christine, here we go. Okay, this is for you, Mr. Lesko, okay? How do you maintain neutrality when dealing with complex issues, especially those you may have a strong personal opinion about?
That's a great question. The basis of presiding over cases as a judge is impartiality. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting some weird feedback.
Very loud feedback.
I'm trying to.
Okay. The basis of being a judge is being impartial and fair, no matter who is before you, regardless of what walk of life they come from, their financial status, their race, their color, whether they're male or female. So maintaining impartiality, to me, is something that I've had to do, especially since 2017. And there's an answer for when you can't maintain impartiality. Judges have to know when to recuse, okay? And it's not just a basis for recusal because you have an independent relationship with a litigant, or maybe you are facing a situation where a litigant is somehow familiar to you because you are in a small community. When you have those circumstances, you have to put your pride aside, even though I think I can be fair and impartial no matter what. But what's just as important as being able to be fair and impartial is the appearance of impropriety. If I am ruling on a case where, given my relationship with a litigant or a situation, someone could raise a question and say, hey, I think Judge Lesko ruled that way because he's buddies with one of the lawyers. That is an appearance of impropriety. On that basis, you recuse as well, because we have another very capable judge in Judge Houston who can take that case when I have a conflict and administer justice fairly and impartially.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Okay, I got it, thank you. People come into town court at special moments. I've seen that look hundreds of times when people came before the ZBA. For instance, like with an order to remedy, which is a ticket from the building inspector. And based upon my demeanor at the time, I had a very calming effect on these people. Everyone and everything has to be accounted for. Cases can pile up, delays frustrate everyone, defendants, victims. Limiting them is the key. A local judge has to be neutral, steady, consistent. I spent decades in roles where fairness wasn't optional. I would bring that same approach to the bench. In short, the way I address the court's challenges is by being prepared, being respectful, being consistent. Every case, every person, every time.
Okay, thank you. We're going to begin with Mr. Harris on this question. New York allows town justices to be lay judges, in other words, non-lawyers. Do you believe it is important for a town justice to be a lawyer? Why or why not?
Why or why not do I believe?
New York State
Right,
allows...
60, yeah, 60,
Right,
yes.
so I'm asking the question of, do you think that a town justice should be a lawyer? If yes, why? If no, why not?
I don't think it can, I think it can go either way. I know that 60% of the justices in New York State are non-lawyers. And as a non-lawyer, I think I have a closer feeling to what's going on in town than a justice does. I offer something different than the judge does.
And could you say what that is? What do you offer differently?
Well, I think I'm more grounded. I mean, having spent like those 15 years with the ZBA, I've come to know people, you know, like up close and really personal. And I've seen the fear in their faces when they approach the, you know, the bench, the chair, whatever you want to call it. And you had to calm them down, and knowing that I wasn't a judge and just was one of them, it made them feel rested and relaxed, and that's what I think.
Okay, thank you. Can you answer that question?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's helpful for people to understand why we have that rule. Because there's no other judicial post where you can be a layperson. This rule came into existence literally a century ago, because in rural areas with far less dense populations, there were counties that didn't have a single attorney who lived there. And so, you know, people thought, look, we can't get an attorney from a neighboring county who has to drive 60 miles to preside over our town court. We need to open it up to members of our community who we trust, who we look up to, who we have faith that could administer justice fairly and impartially and follow the law. So they made an exception. Now, I have worked with many lay judges. I work with lay judges who do a fine job, okay? Most of them have been in the business for a long time, because I will say that the law and the requirements have become much more demanding, much more complex in recent years. Things have changed drastically. So I do think, personally, I think being someone who knows procedures, being someone who is well-versed in the law and the procedure, it's second nature to me because of my practice, because of my experience. And when you don't have that experience, you risk bad things happening. When you don't follow the law properly and you are not well-versed, that's when people who are guilty walk away. And that's when you risk an innocent person going to jail. And that is a travesty.
Okay, thank you. This is the last question, and it'll begin with Mr. Lesko. Last question before the closing statement. You've actually already touched on this, Mr. Lesko, but I'm going to ask you more specifically, more specific. In general, what constitutes a conflict of interest that would require a judge to recuse?
Okay, there's some very easy examples. I had a case before me, and I can speak generally, but one of the litigants was the father of a young girl that I represented in family court as a minor. And his daughter, I represented her for 12 years. There was intense family court litigation. She was a person that I knew, and because I represented her for so many years, I became familiar with her father. We did not have a personal relationship. We did not go out to dinner together. But most importantly, when you have a situation like that, you need to put that on the record, not only for the litigants to hear, but also for the entire court to hear, because that's what instills confidence in the justice system. When you have justices who lay it out there and are transparent. And I put on the record my involvement with this particular gentleman, and I said to the litigants, look, I can be fair and impartial, but it's only fair for you to know, the person who was opposing him, that I know Mr. So-and-so in this way. And if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel that, even though I do feel that I can be fair and impartial, you have a right to that, and on that basis, I recused. Does that answer more specifically what specific type of, but there are also other relationships, family members, people that I have had business relationships with, people who are in my close circle of friends. Those are very obvious conflicts, but my philosophy, any relationship that I have with a person who is before me, I put that on the record because I want to be as transparent as possible so that the litigants can make a decision that they're comfortable with.
So putting it on the record doesn't necessarily mean that you would recuse yourself. It would be that you would give them to ask you to recuse yourself.
Yes, but even if there are situations where the person has been like, oh no, this is great, I know this man, and I've recused, even though they haven't asked me to, because I think it may be, there's that appearance, the possible appearance of impropriety.
So appearance also. Okay, thank you. Mr. Harris.
Yes. First of all, I think the type of crime and the amount of crimes that appear in this court, you do not need that much information about. There's a course that you're supposed to take prior to becoming a judge, once you're elected, where they teach you certain features. I myself have been in courts hundreds and hundreds of times. I know the process that the lawyers go through, that the judges go through. I was in family court, state court, federal court, family court. Going back to as far as recusal goes, when I was the chair of the ZBA, if somebody came over to me and said, do I have to be recused, was a sign of them to be recused, because they had doubt in their own minds as to whether or not they would be fair and impartial. That's it.
So I just want to clarify. So you're saying that if the rule is if you have to ask yourself, should I recuse myself, then you should recuse yourself, just having the question.
Yeah, that's the way I process
That's the way you would do it.
recusals, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was the last question, and it's now time for the final statement. and it's going to begin with Mr. Lesko. Okay, so you have 2 minutes for your concluding statement.
Thank you. To conclude, I want to make it clear that I do disagree respectfully with Mr. Harris. I do think that misdemeanor offenses can be very complicated. That's why we have district attorneys prosecuting those cases and defense attorneys defending them, because they're complex, there are many elements to prove the crime, and there are many defenses that are had that can make the case go either way. I don't think they're simple. And I know this, not because I've seen it on TV, but because I've lived it and I've presided over it. I bring to the table a certain set of qualifications and experience that no one running for this position has. I am hands down the best candidate for this job. I humbly ask for the honor of continuing to serve this community as one of its town judges. I want to carry on what I've carried on thus far since 2017, and I want to do it fairly, honestly, impartially, giving litigants and anybody who appears in this courtroom, treating them with respect and dignity and fairness. I have a proven record, I have experience, and I don't think it's even a question. If we're talking about what is best for this community, who will most be able to protect the rights of citizens and everyone who appears in this court, whether it's the stance of a victim, whether you're coming in as a defendant, or whether you're coming in as an attorney. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Mr. Harris, your concluding statement.
Yes, I want to start with some, well, I'll be concluding. Anyways, you have district attorneys and defendants, defense attorneys, and they're the ones that handle the bulk of this thing. I mean, reading laws and understanding laws, it just takes a sense of right and wrong, and that's what I come here with. But let me, my ending statement. In 1998, I was here 10, 12 years. I was on the ZBA for 2 years. Tracy Kellogg was the town supervisor. Sid Slayton was the town justice. He retired. It was at that point that I found out you didn't have to be a lawyer to become a town justice. So I applied for the position of town justice. And there were 17 others applied. It came down to 4 people, me and Richard Husted. Richard was an iron worker. He's been the town judge since 1998. And the town hired him, and deservedly so, because he was down in the trenches with the rest of us, and he knew what the town's soul was like. Now, let's go forward 20-something years, and here we are now. I have 40 years in this town. I had 15 years on the Zoning Board of Appeals. And it's up to you people, it's up to you people, what am I doing? It's up to you people to put me in a position that I would like to be in to benefit the town the way I did with regard to the zoning law. You have your cell tower, 30 seconds? Okay, you have your cell tower, you have the things that the town needed, and it was a matter of right and wrong. It was a matter of reading the law, reading the zoning regulations, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. This concludes this section of the Town Justice Forum, and I would like us to give them a hand before we conclude. So again, I want to thank the audience for attending tonight's forum and being engaged in the election process. I want to thank all the candidates. We had, again, I'm going to go over them. For the town council, we have Daniel Gallant, Marcel Nagel. For clerk, Rebecca Brooks and Megan Raimondo. And for justice, Howard Harris and Jason Lesko. I want to thank all of you for stepping up. And again, whatever happens on primary day, I salute you for standing up and wanting to give back to the community. I also want to thank the efficient and attentive timekeeper. Thank you to the Woodstock Democratic Committee for always making sure that your voters are educated. Finally, remember that early voting begins on Saturday, June 13th and runs through Sunday, June 21st at 3 locations. Olive American Legion in the hall, Olive American Legion Hall in Shokan, Midtown Neighborhood Center in Kingston, and Ellenville Public Library. During early voting, you can vote at any of these locations. And of course, primary day is Tuesday, June 23rd, and at that point, you must vote at your regular polling site. Finally, a video of this forum will be available in the next couple of days on the Woodstock Democratic Committee website, YouTube channel, and Facebook page. I want to thank you again, and I hope that you go to the polls and flex those muscles, because this is a very important election year. Thank you.